Hey there, it's me, Polyphonic, and you're watching Polyphonic. If you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you probably know that I don't usually do year-end music lists. I don't really do lists in general. I just find that they can kind of dominate musical discourse, and there's so many other ways of engaging with music. And then on top of that, I just don't listen to a ton of new music. That's nothing against new music. I think there's lots of really great music being made. I just can't keep up. You know, it's just not how I listen to music. It's not how I operate. So I never feel, like an authority on these things. But this year, I have acknowledged the reality that I am a content creator, and year-end lists are, prime pieces of music content. So I'm going to talk a bit about the music that I've been listening to this year, but I'm going to do it in a bit of a different way than usual. I'm not going to be doing rankings. There's no top or bottom here. I kind of just want to give you guys a peek into my head and my listening habits this year. So I'm going to share with you guys 20-ish songs. There's probably going to be some diversions. There's always diversions, and I think I'm going to do an extended cut on Nebula if you want those diversions. But broadly, I'm going to be sharing you 20 songs that I listened to a lot this year, and I'm going to be sharing them in 5 categories. So the first category is going to be new music. That is music that dropped this year or popped this year. That's sort of your typical year-end. I guess you could call this my songs of the year, but don't call it that. It's not that deep. The second category is new to me. These are songs that didn't come out this year, but songs that came to me this year. Songs that I discovered this year, songs that I really got into this year that I had not listened to previously. After that, we'll go to new appreciation. These are songs that I already knew and was aware of and had heard before, but for whatever reason connected to me in new ways this year, whether that's a deeper understanding, a deeper appreciation, whether it just sort of like fit a moment or vibe for me, or, what have you. And we'll bring things home with old standards. These are just songs that I always love, songs that I listen to a lot, songs that have been in heavy rotation for me, many of them for years, but I also listened to them a lot this year, so they warrant mention as well. And with each of these categories, I've got a bonus song up on Nebula if you want to see that, I guess. I guess we're doing that. All right, does that make sense to you? Let's drop the fucking thingy and take a closer look. Chapter 1, New Music. See how I read that title? Doesn't it make it feel professional and good? I know what I'm doing. I'm competent. So before we get into talking about the actual songs I'm going to list here, there is one song that I want to talk about and that I'm not going to talk about that much because it's been talked about to death by this point, and that's Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us, and really all of the songs from the Kendrick-Drake beef. I was bumping Not Like Us nonstop through the summer, like everyone. I just don't really have that much more to add to the conversation. If you want to get the whole lowdown on that, FD Signifier's video on it is great, but yeah, there's so much out there on that song. All right, first up, Lunch by Billie Eilish. I've been a Billie Eilish fan for a while, and I was really excited when she dropped the new album, and personally, I actually thought that Lunch was going to be the song of the summer. Obviously, that didn't prove true for various reasons, but it was still one of the songs of my summer. It's just kind of a classic sort of pop bop. I love the bass line. I think it's just got this really kind of like slick, sexy, playful thing going on. Obviously, it's a song about queer love and queer sex, which is always great. I do think there's a bit more maturity coming into Billie Eilish's songwriting as she, enters her mid-20s, I think. I'll check that. I liked the whole album, but Lunch was definitely the standout for me. It's just a good, fun, little sex song, I don't think it's like a transcendental, profound song, but I don't think it needs to be. I think it serves its purpose incredibly well. Just a great pop song. Speaking of great pop songs, another one that I really loved this year was Espresso by Sabrina. I listened to the rest of Sabrina Carpenter's album and I was a little lukewarm on it, but for me, Espresso is an instant classic pop song. It's just like hook after hook after hook with these great sound palettes. To me, Espresso follows in a long tradition of love songs with a conceit. You know, that's that Me Espresso, I'm keeping you up late at night. It's a tight, clever little lyrical conceit for a love song in a way that, you know, in my mind harkens back like way back to kind of like traditional pop music, you know, like great American songbook stuff. The art of the love song as conceit has sort of disappeared in the modern age as pop music has become less about love, and as also people have become more elaborate with expressions of love in the songs that they do have. And I think that's good. Like I don't think everything needs to be these tight little, you know, jaunty pop tunes with a tight little conceit, but I'm keeping him up late at night because he's thinking of me. I love that. This is a pop song that, for me at least, will endure. Let's take things down a little from the bright pop of Summer Love to the absolute gut-wrenching pain of Adrian Lenker's Sadness as a Gift. I loved this whole album. Adrian Lenker, in case you're unaware, she's the lead singer of Big Thief. This is a solo album she released this year. Just a really, really fantastic piece of music. Just absolutely kind of like gut-wrenching song. The whole album's incredible. I didn't listen to the album a ton because it's just a really heavy album. You know, I have stresses, but I'm generally a pretty happy guy. And I've said that, you know, listening to Adrian Lenker as a happy person almost feels like cultural appropriation to me. Sadness as a Gift is such a beautifully aching piece of music. But, you know, we all feel sadness. We all experience it. I think Adrian Lenker has one of the most beautiful voices in the industry right now, and I think Sadness as a Gift is such a display of that vocal talent.
Snow falling, I try to keep from calling. Watch the spring turn to winter, fireflies all frozen.
It's a really powerful piece of music. For me, you can put it up there in the same kind of like emotional space as like Blue or, you know, these great heartbreak songs of old. Really lovely song, amazing piece of music. I guess that brings us back to pop with a song that technically didn't come out this year, came out 4 years ago, but was a sleeper hit and took over the world this year and took me over too. I was absolutely belting Pink Pony Club like everyone else.
God, what have you done? You're a pink pony girl, and you dance at the club, oh mama.
My niece recommended this album to me shortly after it dropped, and I listened to it a couple times and really enjoyed it. And then, you know, as the wave rode into summer and it became the summer of Chapel Roan, yeah, I rode that wave, and why wouldn't you? I mean, if you've got a problem with Pink Pony Club, I don't want to talk to you about music. This is a perfect song. It's got the big, enormous chorus. It's catchy as hell. It's got a real tight emotional core, you know, telling this narrative of queer joy and really of the joy of performance.
Pink Pony Club, I'm gonna keep on dancing at the Pink Pony Club. I'm gonna keep on dancing down in West Hollywood.
There's a bit of irony there where, you know, a song about the joy of performing and being this sort of authentic self through art and dance launched Chapel Roan into the spotlight, where she's been having this sort of public struggle with fame, which, you know, I'm a big supporter of Chapel Roan and everything she's been saying about fame. I think fame is a strange, dehumanizing force. You know, studying music history, you see how it warps people, and I hope that she can keep her head on straight. And I think having this kind of approach and setting boundaries is the first step to doing that. So I love Pink Pony Club. I loved the whole album, really. The other song that really stuck out to me was Femininomenon. Just that, like, can somebody play a song with a fucking beat is unreal, timeless. It's just fun, joyful music. I think one of the kind of big takeaways from this summer especially is that people are making music fun again, which is really great. I think for some time, pop has been in this dark, dreamy, atmospheric place, and there's lots of great pop songs from that, but I I love a good dance banger. I love a pop song that is just like fun. That's what pop music should be. Pop music should be fun. It can be other things as well. It can be, transcendental, and it can speak to the times and stuff like that. But at its core, I like pop music when it's fun, and Chapel Roan is fun, and Pink Pony Club is absolutely fun. Like that is going to be a karaoke staple for decades to come. I already really like the song, but I was at a good friend's wedding this year, and late in the night, the DJ played that song, and everyone lost their shit. It was one of the highlights of the dance floor. That's the energy that this song should have. And yeah, I adore that. And lastly for this category, All I Want Is You by Cindy Lee.
All I want is you.
Cindy Lee's Diamond Jubilee was my album of the year. If you watch my video from a couple weeks back, albums that aren't albums, it inspired a lot of that. I talk more about it there. So here I'm going to focus a bit more specifically on All I Want Is You. There's a lot of great cuts from this album, and often I don't really think of it in terms of songs, but for me, this is the kind of like refrain that keeps coming to my mind when I think of this. The all I've got is the truth, all I want is you.
All I've got is the truth. All I want is you.
What a pure expression of melancholy and yearning and love, and just unreal piece of songwriting. The delivery is spectacular. The whole dreamy atmosphere of it. I need to come up with a better word than dreamy. Dreamy and ethereal are overused words, but I'm struggling to think of any more on the spot. This is why people write. The sound palette on this song, the just slow pull of it on the heartstrings, really, really affecting, and even more affecting when placed within its whole context. All right. On to the stuff that is new to me. First up, K-San by Cold Chisel.
I left my heart to disciples round K-San, and my soul was sold with my cigarettes to the black market man.
To start off this year, I did some travel. I went to Australia and New Zealand, picked up a bin chicken while I was in Australia, and while I was there, as you do, I tried to soak in the culture a little, and my good friend and producer and co-live streamer Middo showed me some pieces of Australian music. There's lots that stuck out to me, but the one that has lasted most is K-San, and it's not surprising because this is a polyphonic core song if there ever was one. It's a piece about a Vietnam veteran and his kind of aimless life after dealing with the trauma of Vietnam. Vietnam is always talked about in terms of America for good reasons, but Australia also participated in the war, and this song is, a cultural identifier of that. And I think it's interesting because I think there are great Vietnam songs that sort of capture, the moment of the Vietnam War. I think this one is really interesting because it captures the aftermath and the way that conflict stuck with people and hung around and really impacted people. And, the story of this kind of aimless vet looking for meaning after going through intense trauma. It's a trope, but it's a strong trope. It's an archetypal story, really. There's sort of this build through it up until the final big chorus that really hits. It's an emotional tug.
Well, the last plane out of Sydney's almost gone. The last plane out of Sydney's almost gone.
Middo calls it Australia's national anthem. Another thing I've heard it described as is kind of like an Aussie born in the USA. But I actually think I like this song better than Born in the USA. I love Springsteen, but I don't know. There's something about this song that really, it really captures me, and it really appeals to my sensibilities. Next up is Body Terror Song by AJJ.
I'm so sorry that you have to have a body. I'm so so sorry that you have to have a body. Oh yeah, I'm very sorry that you have to have a body.
I like AJJ. I'd listened to a lot of their older stuff, you know, back in the day, but I'd never encountered Body Terror Song until this year, and I fixated on this one hard. It is such a beautiful, small, but enormous song. It talks about the universal experience of having a body, you know, and it was a very kind of like profound song for me because I've never had that much of a conception of a self as existing without my body. My body is myself. And for me, this song kind of teased that concept out of me of the soul, the spirit, what have you. Like the idea that there is a self and the self is this vibrant, beautiful thing that is defined by these fragile bodies that we are stuck in. It captures that really well musically and lyrically. It's a song that feels vulnerable. It makes you feel vulnerable, but it also makes you feel seen. It's reaching out. It's apologizing for the trauma that human experience can bring sometime and that having a body can bring.
I'm sorry that you have to have a body filled with infection, 100 scabs singing in unison.
And there's obviously a huge queer subtext to it as well, which is, you know, really an interesting dynamic that it adds. It's not explicitly said, but, you know, for anyone queer, this song resonates in a different sort of way. So yeah, Body Terror Song is definitely one that I will be continuing to spin for years to come. One song that I hadn't really encountered before from an artist that I really loved, really two artists actually that I really love, is Miles Davis's take on Surrey with the Fringe on Top. When I was writing Century of Song, I got really into Oklahoma. In general, I'm really into Richard Rodgers. I think he's one of the best melodists ever to live. He's written some of the greatest songs you've ever heard. He's a master at his craft, and so is Miles Davis. Like, you know, Miles Davis, I don't need to tell you how good Miles Davis is. He's Miles Davis. His take on Surrey with the Fringe on Top is unreal. It recognizes and plays with the beauty of Richard Rodgers' melodies. It's playful, but still maintains the cool that Miles Davis always has. A couple years back, I obsessed over My Favorite Things. I just love it when jazz geniuses do their take on Richard Rodgers. It's a surefire recipe for success. So yeah, Surrey with the Fringe on Top. Honestly, kind of surprised I hadn't really encountered this earlier, but it's definitely on regular heavy rotation for me now. Fisherman by the Congos.
Oh, fisherman, row, keep on rowing your boat.
I think technically I really started to get into this one last year, but you know, I liked it a lot this year, so it's going to make the cut. Yeah, I've been increasingly dipping my fingers more and more into dub music. It was a bit of a blind spot for me for a long time. You know, I didn't really grow up with any culture of listening to reggae, listening to dub, anything like that, but I adore it. I love me some juicy, airy sound palettes. Fisherman has all of that. It's Lee Scratch Perry's production, doing what Lee Scratch Perry does best. And then I also really love it lyrically. It kind of taps into the sort of religiosity of the primal human experience. There's something about the image of the fisherman that is so drilled into human culture for millions of years. And just this sort of like row, fisherman row. The continual forward momentum of the lyrics are matched by the song. just has these like beautiful little flourishes and sound details that are Lee Scratch Perry's specialty and make him so unreal. So yeah, that was a big one for me. The Queen's Rebuke / The Crossing by Decemberists.
I'm made of bones of the branches, the boughs, and the brow-beating light.
So I'm going to be honest with you. I get recommended a lot of music by commenters and followers and stuff, and I pretty rarely listen to it. I try sometimes, but to be frank, I don't often go into them. But every now and then, for whatever reason, I decide to pick up something that was recommended to me by a fan. And this one was recommended to me. I don't even really remember when. I think even earlier than this year, but for whatever reason, I picked it up and really got into it this year. And my God, like I know the Decemberists catch a lot of shit, and some of it's probably fair. They are very twee, but you know, I'm fine with that. It appeals to my sensibilities in a lot of ways, and they have a lot of sincerity to it, which I really love. And The Hazards of Love is unreal. It's this concept album kind of inspired by folk tales and fairy tales, and the whole thing has this sort of naturalistic vibe, but then musically it's very influenced by, you know, Genesis, who are an all-time favorite of mine. The whole album is phenomenal, but for me, the highlight is The Queen's Rebuke, which is one of the climactic moments where this kind of fairy witch thing, you know, the sort of character I'm talking about. I forget exactly what she is in the lore, but she is this terrifying, powerful, natural force. And, you know, she's describing the lyricism with all of this stunning naturalistic imagery, and she just sounds terrifying, powerful, and ancient. And the music kind of overwhelms you and absorbs as the heroes are kind of trying to escape her reach and power. It's just got so many things that I love in a song. It's got heavy guitars. It's got, you know, lyricism heavily influenced by fantasy media and, like I said, fairy tales. Like, that shit I am all about. I love that shit. It's got a wicked organ solo. Like, this organ tone is fantastic. Just a great prog rock song. It really reminds me a lot of a lot of the classic prog rock that I love. So yeah, thank you to whoever suggested this to me once upon a time, because this was great. All right, on to the next section, new appreciation. Frankly, this is probably my favorite section, and probably the section that is most indicative of what my listening habits are. Generally, what happens for me with a song is I will know a song, I will be aware of a song, I will have listened to a song however many times, and then eventually something will click and I will just fixate on it and become really, really obsessed with it. So let's start out with Life During Wartime.
This ain't no party. This ain't no disco. This ain't no fooling around.
Over the past 2 to 3 years, I have been getting more and more into the Talking Heads, to the point where they might be like my most frequently listened to band right now. They're definitely one of my favorites. This whole year, I've been obsessed with Remain in Light, to the point that I'm thinking next year I might do a Nebula original series on the album, doing it track by track, you know, like my Dark Side of the Moon project. I'm this close to doing that series, so you'll probably see it next year. You know, any of those songs, especially Born Under Punches, I listened to a lot this year, but I'm going to talk about those a lot more. So in this video, I wanted to talk about another Talking Head song that I've been listening to a ton. Life During Wartime is a masterpiece of a song. It brings the Tina Weymouth groove like no others can. That rhythm section is so tight and just rides that groove through the whole song. And then I think that it's juxtaposed with lyrics that are both interesting and very kind of like harrowing, kind of imagining urban warfare in modern New York. And I think that's a really interesting concept. So often people who haven't experienced war, like me and like most people I know, kind of look at it as this strange, distant thing that happens in other backwards places in the world or whatever. But there's a saying that, anywhere on earth is 9 meals away from wartime, right? And this is sort of a very harrowing imagination of kind of living during urban warfare. I find it very jarring, the kind of juxtapositions of everyday kind of urban life with these ideas of having to keep your heads down by windows and, all of these things tie together into a really complex and interesting package.
I got some groceries, some peanut butter to last a couple of days. But I ain't got no speakers, ain't got no headphones, ain't got no records to play.
This is more direct of a lyric than David Byrne and Talking Heads usually do, but even still, it's sort of abstract and obfuscated. Like, Byrne has said that when he was talking about it, he was thinking of like Alphabet City and stuff, and as much as it kind of imagines life during wartime, it also talks about the very real problems of violence and poverty and infrastructural collapse that happens in a lot of America's cities. So it paints this kind of apocalyptic image of New York City, but then it does it all with just the sickest bass groove you've ever heard. What a unique piece of music. Like, I really, really love this, and it really encapsulates everything that makes Talking Heads so powerful and such an interesting and relevant band. Next up is the song that was maybe my biggest obsession this year, Linger by the Cranberries.
You got me wrapped around your finger. Do you have to let it linger? Do you have to? Do you have to?
I'd heard this song lots before this year, but this year is when it really clicked for me. Something about it just grabbed me and tugged at my soul. Dolores O'Riordan is one of the greatest vocalists ever to live. She's incredible in this song. The kind of power but also frailty in her voice in this song it strikes this really, really careful balance. It moves in ways that I find evoke a lot of emotion. Great guitar tone.
I'm in so deep. You know I'm such a fool for you.
This song really captures a lot of what my vibe was this year, which is these dreamy, forlorn love songs. In my mind, it occupies a lot of the same emotional space as like Cindy Lee or something like that. And just the I'm such a fool for you. It's I don't know. I'm at a loss for words to describe what this song does to me emotionally, because it's a very powerful piece of music. And it's frankly kind of astounding to me that I had not resonated with it like this until this year. It's going to be a staple of so many of my playlists going forward. I really wish I had better ways to describe how this song makes me feel, but it occupies such a unique emotional space of wistfulness and longing and sorrow and beauty and hopefulness. And really what it does is what music does best, which is explore the complexities and nuances of human emotion in ways that can't easily be put into words. Another song in my sort of wistful, ethereal rotation this year is Mummer's Dance by Lorena McKinnon. I actually first discovered this song a couple years back. I was kind of completely unaware of it, but I've become obsessed with it. I love fantasy literature. I'm currently working on a Feywild D&D campaign, and for me, this song is the sound of the Feywild. It represents this kind of pagan attachment to the land. It's full of this naturalistic imagery about springtime and the changing of the seasons, but it's wrapped in this very medieval, fantastical, tapping into the other realms, reaching beyond the mortal plane, piercing the veil into whatever strange lands lie beyond.
He's a sprout, will bud it up, the work of our Lord's hand. We could run before the night, sometime of this day.
To me, this song sounds like a parade of fey folk wearing strange masks, luring you to come join in their eternal dance. And man, I'm dancing along with them. I'm stepping right into that mushroom circle, and I will happily be lost in the wilds forever if it sounds like this song. Like, wow, what a unique piece of music. And like, if anyone has anything else that sounds like this, I've listened to some more Lorena McKenna. None of it hits quite like this. Please suggest me more things that sound like this song. I need it. I need it in my life so bad. Taking a pivot away from the kind of ethereal Faye stuff, another sound palette that I will always love, that is one of my all-time favorites, is just 70s soul. I personally think music has maybe never sounded as good as 70s soul. It's the peak of analog hi-fi systems, and you have these just like lush orchestrations that feel like a like soft feather bed that you can fall into, and few songs epitomize that for me more than Me and Mrs. Jones.
Me and Mrs. Jones, we got a thing going on.
A beautiful song about an affair, so it has that sort of like wrongness, but the temptation of this wrongness. The bit of the like temptation and resolve in the "we got a thing going on." I missed the notes, I'm sure, but it's so impactful. I've always liked this song. It's always been a vibe for me, but the more I listen to it this year, the more I'm like, this is maybe one of the greatest songs ever written. It's a perfect piece of orchestration. It's such a powerful display of the human voice.
Now she'll go her way and I'll go mine. Tomorrow we'll meet the same place, the same time. Me and Mrs. Jones.
It's the sort of small interpersonal story that also speaks to an experience that many people have, for better or worse. And I think what's interesting about it is it's just like, it's a song that is caught up in a moment, you know? It's about being caught up in this moment and sort of throwing caution to the wind for the joy and pleasure of this moment, which is really, really impactful. Don't have affairs, though. Just communicate with your partner. Talk to each other. That's Polyphonic's life advice. Last up is a song that's relatively new, but is something that's like finally stuck with me. I've had a lot of friends and family and stuff recommend Noah Kahan over the last few years. He very much fits into the kind of singer-songwriter stuff that I really enjoy. I'd listened to him a couple times, but it had never quite clicked. And then this year, I was up at a lake and listened to the entirety of Stick Season, the album, and the title track just really stuck with me.
And I heard Vermont, but it's the season of the sticks, and I saw.
It's not a surprise that I like Noah Kahan. There's something very Dylan-esque about his vocals. He does tap into that like Appalachian whine and sort of pseudo yodel a little, and as a Dylan head, you know, that does it for me in a good way. And lyrically, you know, it's your typical kind of like sad boy song, but it's a great sad boy song. I love a good sad boy song. Even though I am canonically happy, I do like a sad boy song every now and then. I really like the way that the song kind of pushes past the bar and has a forward momentum to it. And I think there's some really like beautiful turns of phrase. The like, I saw your mom, she forgot that I existed is, I don't know, that's a small moment that I think speaks to the pain of a breakup well. And especially the like, sort of I'm torn in half, but that'll have to do. Again, it's not treading new ground lyrically, but it's taking a tried and true, interesting emotion and expressing it in a very clever and well thought out way.
And I'll dream each night of some version of you that I might not have, but I did not lose. Now you're tire tracks and one pair of shoes, and I'm split in half, but that'll have to do.
And also, like, I think Noah Kahan is from one of those American states that's actually just Canada. So, like, as a Canadian, I really relate to it. It's music for people who live in forests and have cold winters. And, you know, as a fellow Noah, I have a kinship with Noah Kahan. So I am happy that I'm getting into his music finally. All right. And that finally brings us to the last section, Old Standards. These are songs that I have loved for years, but songs that I repeat frequently for various reasons. They're great tunes. The first one I'm going to go with here is Paul McCartney's Ram On.
Ram on, give your heart to somebody soon.
This song sounds like lying on a cloud. It sounds like letting all of the troubles of the world disappear. It's my go-to relaxation song. You know, I just find it so warm and cozy and calming. Maybe the best use of ukulele in a rock song ever. Hot take, Paul McCartney's a great songwriter and a great singer, and, you know, did good things with this. The little horn riff in it, impeccable arrangement, and it's just like a tight, perfect little 2-minute song. It's just one of those songs where whenever I play it, I can feel the tension releasing from my body. And on a similar level to that, Al Green's Let's Stay Together.
Oh, baby, let's stay together.
One of the greatest love songs ever written. Beautiful horn arrangements, very similar to Ram On for me, where this is just a relaxation song. I just melt every time it comes on. What I really love about Let's Stay Together is the sort of lyrical conceit. You know, I think there are a lot of songs that kind of glamorize the drama of the on again, off again, and there's a lot of songs that express love in many different ways, because love expresses itself in many different ways. But for me, this song has always kind of like resonated to my experience of love for my wife, and, you know, how romance has been for me, which is just the whether times are good or bad, happy or sad, let's stay together. It's very romantic, and, you know, maybe it is idealized. Like, I don't think everyone should stay together. I think there are people that should break up, but it's just romantic and it's nice. And Al Green, he's Al Green, you know? His voice is like a deep tissue relaxation massage for your soul.
Somebody, why people break up? Oh, and turn around and make up. I just came to see.
And speaking of soul music, we got this guy here, Curtis Mayfield. This album is one of my favorite albums of all time. Curtis by Curtis Mayfield, in case you don't know. For years now, I've said Move On Up might be the greatest song ever recorded, and I still think I stand by that. But this year, I've been focusing more on sort of the dark mirror of Move On Up. Don't worry, if there's hell below, we're all gonna go.
He said, don't worry, but they don't know. There can be no show, and if there's hell below, we're all gonna go.
Man, is Don't Worry ever a track. The horn arrangements are spectacular. Curtis Mayfield is maybe the greatest rhythm guitarist ever to live. His guitar grooves are so good. In broader guitar discussions, I think he gets completely underrated and left out because he doesn't do the flashy solo work. But man, is he ever locked in, and can he ever ride a groove? Among a lot of musicians, Curtis Mayfield gets the respect that he deserves, but in the broader music community, I still think Curtis Mayfield's underrated. I think he's one of the greatest musical geniuses of his time, and his time is the fucking 70s. There was a lot of great musical geniuses. And then lyrically, Don't Worry If There's Hell Below is sort of this like scream into the void, which is something a lot of us can relate to right now as well. From a time when it felt like the whole world was going to shit, it is this reach across racial and class lines and across all the mini divides that were coming up in American society at the time, and saying we all share the same thing. If there's hell below, we're all gonna go. And I think it really speaks to the way that we are all complicit in each other's oppression and pain.
Lord, what we're gonna do?
It's a heavy, heavy song, but it delivers it with just the best groove you've ever heard. And again, I cannot stress enough, same with Move On Up. This album might have some of the best horn arrangements ever recorded. Absolute treat of a song. I will probably do a video on Don't Worry and Move On Up, or on this whole album or something at some point. I've been wanting to do a video about Curtis Mayfield and about this album for a long time. I just have not quite been able to piece it together. Next up is A Tribe Called Quest's Can I Kick It?
Can I kick it? Yes, you can. Can I kick it? Yes, you can. Can I kick it? Yes, you can. Can I kick it?
Is it a hot take? It probably is a hot take in my circles to say that I think I might even like this song better than Walk on the Wild Side, which it samples. Can I Kick It? It's just the ultimate laid-back summer groove. It's been a staple of summer playlists for a long time for me. It's a great driving tune. It's just a song about letting loose and relaxing, and it encapsulates everything that makes Tribe great. There's the jazzy flows, there's the light kind of playfulness, like it just feels like kicking back with some old friends and hanging out. And then like from a production standpoint, the beat is unreal, and this the psychedelic scratching breakdown in the middle is such a unique little soundscape. Like I don't think I've ever heard anything that sounds like that breakdown. It's so adventurous and wild, and then it just cuts back into just the easiest, most laid back golden age hip hop you've ever heard. Track that's gotten lots of accolades, and it should have lots of accolades, and there's a great depth to Tribe's catalog, but sometimes the songs that are best known for good reasons. This is one of those. It's just a wonderful piece of music, and another go-to relaxation song for me. And speaking of relaxation, that brings us to our last, which is maybe my favorite song, up there for sure, Valerie by Amy Winehouse, specifically the BBC Radio 1 Live Lounge version.
Won't you come on over? Stop making a fool out of me. Oh, why don't you come on over, Valerie?
You can probably notice sort of a trend in this section. There's certain kind of guitar tones that I like, certain soul aesthetics that I like. Valerie just sounds so beautiful and warm. This is one of the songs on a playlist that I have called Songs That Make Me Unreasonably Happy. Maybe I'll do a video on that or something sometime. Like I said with Ram On, I put the song on and my whole body just relaxes. It's peaceful, it's beautiful, it's got a bit of a groove to it. Lyrically, it's fun, it's good, but really it's the music of it and the arrangement of it and Amy Winehouse's voice that this song, it holds a really special place in my heart. Few songs can make my troubles go away like this one.
Valerie, oh, why don't you come on over, Valerie?
So yeah, that's pretty much the music I love this year. If you enjoyed this and you want to hear more of the songs that I love, you can check out an extended cut of this video on Nebula right now. And while you're there, you can check out Nebula's ever-growing slate of originals. There's Lindsay Ellis's The Ballad of John and Yoko, an incredible exploration into the breakup of the Beatles and John Lennon's legacy. Or Volksgeist's Danger Music, a shocking exploration into the savage genre that is danger music. And then, of course, there's Polyphonic Magazine, my own homage to print media, where I interview smaller artists that I wouldn't be able to talk about on YouTube. Nebula is a prestige streaming service that I helped build and something that I genuinely believe in. It's allowing creators to push beyond what we thought we could do and making dream projects realities. If you want to help support these projects, or if you just want to watch some unreal content, you can get 40% off Nebula today by going to go.nebula.tv/polyphonic. Following that link gets you a great deal for Nebula and helps support independent content. And it doesn't just need to be for you. If you think someone in your life might enjoy Nebula, you can go to gift.nebula.tv/polyphonic to give a year of Nebula subscription for just $36. And if you send that gift card to somebody who's already got Nebula, they'll add a year of Nebula to their existing balance. And Nebula also has lifetime subscriptions where you can get the best deal of all and not need to worry about monthly recurring payments for as long as both you and Nebula exist. So one more time, that's 40% off Nebula by going to nebula.tv/polyphonic or checking out the link in the description. Thank you all so much for watching. A big thanks to those who already subscribed to Nebula. And hey, let me know what music you loved this year.